Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the betting show for UFC on ESPN between Rob Font and Marlon Vera. We're going to be breaking down the main event as well as another free play. So we got two things to talk about here, but we're coming off last weekend, a 2-2. It was basically a small little bit of profit there, 0.7 units of profit. So over the last 13 weeks, we have profited 9 for clients. Got to keep it going. Hey, little profit is always better than no profit. So this week I do have another 4% best bet play, linked down in the description. But today I do want to let you guys know that the main event is a client play. So I'm going to be giving that out for free today. So we're going to be really diving into this one. Really got a lot to talk about here. So we're going to dive into all of that. I'm going to probably have about 4 or 5 client plays this weekend. I definitely have a little bit of a discount here. So link that in the description. Check it out if you're interested in that. But besides for that, we are going to be talking the main event of the evening between Rob Font and Marlon Vera. Now, we've got currently the line. Rob is roughly around minus 145, and we've got Marlon Vera roughly around the plus 120 range. Seeing that tilting back and forth depending what book you're shopping. So definitely, depending where you're going, take a look at some other sports books. But right now, we're going to do what we always do here. We're going to talk about 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. The first person we're going to be talking about here is Rob Font. Now, 3 fights ago, he fought Marlon Vera. This was definitely something that was very different here. We all kind of went into this fight saying, hey, this is going to be one of those fights where it's going to be standing. You've got the good boxing of Rob Font. You've got the really high-level kickboxing of Marlon Vera. And what does he do? He comes out, and what does he do? He goes out there, and Marlon Vera goes for a takedown right away on Rob Font. Now, I think this is something really coming off a loss for Vera. He wanted to change it up, worried about his chin a little bit. There's been those issues. So he goes out there and he gets that takedown. And now that actually really threw off Rob Font. You could tell he was not prepared for it. He was not even thinking that Vera was going to look to level change. He goes out there and he gets about 2 takedowns in the first, 2.5 minutes as Rob is kind of battling. And that's more than, I think, altogether he's had over his last 9 fights, Marlon Vera. But in this situation here, it just was not really the right method for Marlon Vera, knowing how terrible his cardio is. He wrestled really hard. He got some top position. Then all of a sudden, Rob Font got reversal, got back to his feet. And once they got back to their feet, I mean, boy, it looked like Vera had fought 5 rounds. The guy was tired. And then Font teeing off, landing some big shots, dropped him, rocked him, got on top, fight over, ground and pound. First round knockout victory for Rob Font. So there you have it there. 2 fights ago, he fought Cody Garbrandt. This was another fight here. We've got 2 guys here. Are they going to stand and bang? You've got Cody Garbrandt, another guy who's had chin issues, but fantastic boxing, power, hand speed, and then the same thing with Font. You've got the boxing. So it looked like it was going to be kind of a boxing type of match. But Cody early, and what I think that I like what Cody was trying to do is he was trying to throw in those level changes. He was trying to mix it up. And that's kind of the thing that he's looked to do now is kind of bounce around, throw some combinations, don't stand in the pocket and trade, don't get emotional. That's kind of been his kryptonite as he goes in there, leaves his chin hanging, and he gets dropped. But this was a spot here where really you saw over the 5 rounds, Rob Font fighting behind that jab. And that long rangey jab, he had about a 6-inch reach advantage over Cody Garbrandt. That was just too much for Cody. Now, Cody, I think the old Cody may have done better getting inside, closing distance, and just firing. Font is really not known to have this massive power, so it maybe would have worked better for him, but he kind of stayed on the outside and just was at the end of that jab all fight long, landing big shots, outboxing Cody, defending some of the takedowns. Really beautiful work, really just inside and out, and I like the way that Font didn't commit to certain positions where you did see that Cody was hurt. There was a couple spots where Cody was kind of wobbled a little bit. And Font, that's, again, his kind of thing. He stayed composed, continued to work his game plan, and pretty much, in my opinion, I mean, he won almost every round, in my opinion there, but he did really well. The jab, really one of his best weapons. He utilized it there, showed it. He goes up there and gets the decision victory over Cody Garbrandt. And then most recently, he fought in a 5-rounder. He fought Jose Aldo. Now, this was one of those fights here where, there's times we've seen Aldo where, maybe early he's little, again, the not the old Aldo, but really the new Aldo, kind of a little bit more, methodical with his striking. And that was really, I think, that Font thought, this is going to be my way, my path to go out there, get some opportunity to kind of early on jump on Aldo. He pressed on the gas early. He pushed forward early, landing big shots. It was almost as if Aldo was kind of thrown off by how just really the forward pressure, because Aldo likes to walk guys out. He likes to throw him those leg kicks, utilize the combinations, mix up his combinations. But really, it looked like it was really going to be Font in that first round. But then Aldo lands a big shot, drops Font, gets on top of Font, lands some nice shots, and pretty much from there, it was all Aldo. I mean, Aldo went in there, he was landing the big shots, pushing forward. It was almost as if, again, off of his back foot, Font not as crisp in the boxing when you're walking him down. And I think it really just put him in a tough situation, fighting in close, really mixing it up. I mean, he was damaging Font for pretty much the entire fight. So this here was just a marching down, I think really showed some vulnerability for Font, because he just couldn't really get into rhythm, working behind his jab. He couldn't really, kind of dig in, throw the jab, and start working his offense, working his combinations, moving different, utilizing his footwork. This was just really Aldo being just impressive. I think this was just a really great showing from Aldo. So Aldo goes out there, he gets a decision victory over Rob Font. Now on the other side, we've got Marlon Vera. He is a plus 120. And 3 fights ago, he actually fought Jose Aldo. Now, this was a situation here where, we've seen Aldo having those leg kicks, and then he didn't really do it too much. There was about 2 or 3 fights where he was really not throwing many leg kicks. This was a position here where he went out and they traded leg kicks instantly. Vera has really utilized that a lot. He's got a good kicking game, a good front kick, mixes up combinations well. And this was really where they were just kind of going back and forth, throwing leg kicks. And early, again, it looked like this was going to be, hey, he's pushing the pace, he's bringing it forward. I actually probably had it going in that third round, basically 1-1. But then you had Aldo, who defended some takedowns, got his own top control, ended up utilizing that. He got Vera's back in the third round and ended up getting that victory. But the big part of this fight, I think, is really how it was competitive. It was a very competitive fight. Now, I don't do MMA math. Of course not. It's not this guy beat this guy and that means this is going to happen. But you do see just the difference of what happened in these matchups here. You've got Aldo, who, had a tough fight against Vera, and then you've got a spot here against Font where he pretty much dominated the entire fight. He did get bruised up a little bit there and bloodied up, but it was really an Aldo fight. But this is a spot here where he goes out there and Vera does lose the decision against Jose Aldo. And then 2 fights ago, he fought Davey Grant. This was one here where, again, Davey, I'm not too high on him to be really honest here. He had good volume, he was pushing forward, but again, this was where you saw Vera firing leg kicks, and that just changed the whole fight, I think, for Vera. The way he was landing, he was staying forward, pushing forward, throwing the combinations, walking Davey down. Davey was trying to, even at points, trying to find space, and Vera is good to be in the phone booth, not scared to really fire and just trade in the pocket. That's what he did in this spot here. He grinded out this victory. It was there was definitely some scrappy moments in there, but I really like what he did there. He opened up Davey with some really strong elbows, busted him open, and really put a stamp on it. He goes out there and gets the victory over Davey Grant. And then most recently, he fought Frankie Edgar. This was one here where Edgar was a sizable underdog, if I do remember correctly. And you know what? This was one where, hey, he can just grind it out of Vera. Vera can be taken down, but Frankie has that path where he's going to look, top control, ground and pound you, kind of just really, really bring it to you. And I think stylistically, it's actually a much harder fight for Vera than some of these other fights, just being the fact that the level changing's there, the forward pressure is there. Vera likes to be the guy. forward pressure, level changing, and Edgar fought really, really smart. And he's not the kind of guy that's going in there throwing these big shots, but he's just gonna keep volume on you, and then he's gonna make you worry about the takedowns. That's exactly what he did there. First round, he got a nice takedown on Vera. Second round, he got a nice takedown on Vera. And then, Vera still, had that sense of urgency where he was always looking to move forward. He was firing big shots. He was landing some nice shots. Frankie looked like he was holding up. I mean, the big problem with him was his chin. Going into that third round, it probably was 1-1, maybe 2-0 going to Frankie Edgar, but he lands a big front kick shot, drops him, fight over, and Chito Vera goes out there and gets the third round stoppage. So with that being said, I think the first thing that we need to talk about here is the style at which both guys fight. Now, obviously, we've got somebody in Rob Font he's the kind of guy that, he's going to be boxing, he's going to be rangy, he's going to be utilizing the jab as we talked about. That's been, once he gets that going, he can really get into a rhythm. And that has been really what he's been able to do in some of these other fights, even against Cody, against some of these other guys, where he's able to set that up. Now, we've seen the issue that he has had where guys like Jose Aldo, who are going to push forward, who are going to get in your face, who are going to really press forward, not allow you to utilize the jab. It's almost like, a guy who has a great jab or a big power puncher, you want to actually get closer to them. You want to cut distance. You don't want to allow them to get into that rhythm. That's what Aldo did. That is a very similar style to what Vera could be able to do, a game plan he could bring on Saturday night. I think that really helps him a lot. Also, you add in the fact that he's going to be throwing those leg kicks. And now you've got a guy in Rob Font, who Rob Font definitely is, again, he's not a guy who's going to be firing multiple combinations and leg kicks and body kicks and head kicks. We've got Vera who does that, who definitely uses more of his limbs in the fight. We've got Rob Font, heavy boxing, well-rounded guy, but a very heavy boxing approach. And I think that allows an open target for the leg kicks where he's going to chop down. You've seen that he struggled with checking them. You've seen that Vera loves to throw them. That is a complete open spot for me that I believe he will be able to take advantage of. The other part of this is going to be the smaller Apex cage. Now, of course, both these guys have fought at the Apex. It's nothing new to them. But, again, the style, I think, hurts Rob Font. I really think it hurts Rob Font because, again, this is a guy who's going to want space. He does not want to stand in the pocket and trade. He does not want to just, he has the boxing, but that's not his style. He's not going to be brawling. Vera is going to look to push forward. As soon as Vera's pushing forward, Font's back is going to be up against the cage. I think that is going to be where he's going to be able to exploit takedowns, level changes, get in the clinch, keep it dirty. We've seen that he's got those vicious elbows in the clinch. These are things where he's going to be able to start piling up the damage. And the level changes will be there. He will be shooting. He is not going to be scared of anything that's coming on the ground from Font. And he's going to have that advantage there on the ground. The takedowns could be there, getting on top of him, wearing on him. Those are going to be some of the situations that we that I believe that we're going to see on Saturday night. The other part here is that we kind of touched on it already, but working off of his back foot. Rob has not shown that he's capable of working off of his back foot. So you had in the fact that it's a smaller cage. You got a guy that is willing to be in your face, and you've got a guy in Font that doesn't really want a guy directly in his face, and he's not as comfortable working off of his back foot. And all of that together, and again mixed with the fact that he should be going for level changes, Vera should be going for level change, that adds just so many layers of opportunity for Vera to kind of just have success over this fight. There's multiple paths for him, as we've, I don't have to go over all of them, but there's multiple paths for him. We've got a guy in Font where, can Font really just outbox him for 5 rounds and have success? That's pretty much kind of his only path. He's not going to submit him. He's not going to knock him out. Vera, if I remember correctly, has not even been knocked out. I don't see as many paths for him. And now you're looking at the number, minus 150, minus 140, roughly you're seeing around there. I just think that this is actually flipped. I think that you should have Vera as the favorite. Now, this is not a massive play for me here, but this is going to be a client play for me. I like Marlon Vera to get the job done. I just think he's got more paths to victory. I think that it's really going to be the pressure, going to be able to smother the jab of Fon, as well as putting him up against the cage and really finding those opportunities for level changes, top control, and grinding out a victory. I could even see a submission victory for Vera, kind of going in there and latching onto his back and finding the submission. So for me here, as a client play, I am taking Marlon Vera plus 120. And the other free play we're going to talk about here is going to be Darren Elkins versus Tristan Connelly. Now, this one here, we've got Elkins, he's minus 170. We've got Tristan, he's plus 140. Now I know. Now the first thing we're going to talk about is Elkins' durability. Now he's 37 years old. He has, that's been his MO. He's really been able to kind of go forward, take the big shots, keep going forward. He'll get all cut up in the first round and he grinds out the wins in the second and third round. That's been how he's been able to fight. But the big red flag was last fight against Cub Swanson. Now, against Cub Swanson, he went in there and Cub looked, now I don't know if this was Cub looking great or Elkins looking terrible, but Cub was so sharp, landing shots. He looked so confident in there and, defended the takedowns. He's able to do that. And then he ended up dropping Elkins a few times and then finally putting him away. It was just a beatdown. But he has shown prior to that, Elkins, that, again, he's a grinder. He's going to grind it out. He's going to push forward. Now, the big part here is, again, is Elkins' chin done? Maybe is my answer. I'm not sure. None of us are sure. We'll find out on Saturday night. But the style at which Tristan fights is not one that really, I don't think Elkins should be worried about being hurt or knocked out or anything that he's going to bring in that aspect. We're talking about striking. Plus the fact that Tristan is a guy that kind of fights the way that Elkins fights. They want to be grinding. They want to be on top of each other. They want to be in the grappling situation. They're comfortable in the clinch. They're fine being on the mat and rolling around and seeing who could have who could get the dominant position. So he's not the kind of guy that's going to get the knockouts. And now if you look at Tristan, he has out of his victories, 4 by knockout, 9 by submission, 1 by sub. So he's going to be looking for the grappling opportunities, level changing opportunities, and that's going to be right in the wheelhouse of Elkins. So I do like that, and these are the kind of fights that Elkins wins. These kind of fights where they're going to be brawling and tight and close. Now, I think Elkins struggles against guys like Cub Swanson, who are rangy, who are very elusive, who have good distance management. He can't get in there. We've seen him. His striking is pretty much the same as his entire career. He does not, really have these smooth combinations. He kind of uses these wild strikes to get in tight, to go for those level changes. And a guy like Cub Swanson is elusive. A guy like Tristan isn't elusive. And that's where I think he has an opportunity to put a pace on Tristan. Tristan's also shown that there's spots there where he has shown where cardio has been an issue for him. Cardio is normally a very strong thing for Elkins, where he can push forward and keep that pace, keep the foot on the gas on him. So in this situation here, listen, Elkins, this may not be a pretty fight, but I think Elkins can go out there, get this victory. It's minus 170. I think the price is not bad because I don't really rate Tristan high at all. I really don't rate him as a kind of guy that's going to defend takedowns and find top control. I think it's the opposite. I think Elkins is going to be able to get the takedowns, keep top control, and win on the scorecards, or just find a way to win. But I think he goes out there, gets the victory. So as my other free play is Darren Elkins minus 170. So those are my free plays for UFC on ESPN this Saturday night. If you want to take a look at my client plays, link down in the description, and let's keep this profit train going. I'll see you at the next one. This is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.